So we're sitting here with It Girls Entertainment. I'm sitting here with Brother Polight and Body from CBD. And we want to sit here and ask you a few questions. You know, with everything that's going on with you. From back then to now.
I'm with it. I'll just shoot away. I'm always open. I'm very transparent, translucent, and I'm ready to go.
So I noticed most of the, I don't want to say problems, but most of the things that a lot of people are asking, it's like, oh my God, he has so many women. You know, like, how does he do it? What's going on? How does he get these women to collaborate together without any issues or child support issues? What do you have to say about that?
That's a good one. I like to say, first and foremost, I'm a fan of women. And it's interesting because when you're a fan of somebody, it goes either one or two ways. Either you appreciate it for acknowledging that person's work ethic, acknowledging that person's beauty or what they bring to the table as far as a sport is concerned, whatever the genre may be. Or you get called the groupie, right? So when people adversely look at me with all these women and say, man, I'm a womanizer or something to that effect, I say I'm a fan of women. And me being a fan of women doesn't necessarily mean I have to have sex with every woman that I'm with. It just simply means that I've grown real fond of women, having taken the time out to study and compare and contrast what makes a woman, and from a male perspective, obviously, and also to get insight, have wisdom imparted to me from women. And in doing so, I had to come to the conclusion, one, that the black woman's my God, and she's my Lord and Savior, and that I'm just meaning the populace in general, but I ultimately believe all women are the gods, so to speak. It's a form of rhetoric I employ to stimulate interest, but it's still reality. All women are the gods of their species, right? And now women are the progenitors of society. So as far as child support is concerned, I'm not saying it's a bubble beyond me, but I build very solid relationships with people, and I don't engage in serious relationships until it really gets serious. But I have a different form of serious. When I get serious with a woman, we become business partners. And so,
because I believe everything is business, so I like that you just said that. Everything is business.
Everything
I
is
feel like
business.
even me and my mother's relationship,
That's right.
it's all business.
That's right.
Sure.
One of my sayings is love is law, family is business. And
love is law. Wait, love is law, family is business.
That's right. If you look at the people that rule the world, they're all families. You either call them bankers or you call them families. You call them Bilderbergs, you call them Rockefellers, however you want to call them. These are families. Even if you look at presidency, somebody in our presidency is always related to somebody in the British Parliament. They keep it in the blood. Yeah. So if you want to destroy a people or hinder their ability to grow or progress, right, which is a form of retardation. That's literally what retardation means, to hinder growth or progress.
Wow.
You know, so you make the people retarded by destabilizing the family. If you destabilize the family, you destabilize their ability to do business with each other.
Sure.
Because if you can't do business with your lover, then who can you trust? And a trust is actually property held on behalf of one so that another may benefit. So what we also want to do is put the information into economic context and terms, so we're not so caught up in the emotional affinity that we have to these words and terms, void of the information about economics or wealth. So as I always teach, I wrote a book called Finance or Fiance.
Finance or
nice.
fiance.
Yeah, that's right. Finance or Fiance, or Rich Mom, Poor Mom. And you know, people always make associations to pimping when I talk about money. But the reality is, like I said, love is law, family is business. And when we look at the word friend, a friend is one who's willing to invest in you or one you're willing to invest in. So first and foremost, I need any woman that I'm with, whether she's my partner or not, I need her to be a friend, so she has to go through that first task. I need to be a friend with her. And by that, I mean one who's willing to invest in me and one I'm willing to invest in. Because we all should go into a relationship with the anticipation to use the other party to further our agenda in advance. Mm-hmm. And if you go into a relationship with no intention on using the other party, you know, not unbeknown to them, but them being fully cognizant in what manner you choose to use them, not exploit them, but you want to advance your agenda, and so there should be reciprocity. It should be a mutual benefit amongst the parties, all right? So a friend is one who's willing to invest in you or one you're willing to invest in. And then you have corporations, cooperation, right? And then you have a trust, property held on behalf of one so that another may benefit. So if me and a woman get together and we see some real estate, and I say, man, you know what, this real estate looks good. Let's get down to this. Let's put something together. So now, what we're going to wind up having, right, is now we have beyond the cooperation, right? Now we're going to come together in consideration. Consideration is when two parties identify an asset that they believe can be mutually beneficial, and they create an agreement that stipulates that we're going to break it up where we both can benefit. So in law, that's called consideration, right? So in consideration, we say, man, we both want to make this money off this house. We put the paperwork together. The second that paperwork's together, now identifies that both of us want to invest on the same thing. That's called consideration. And now what's going to happen is we're going to hold that property in trust. So now we have trust amongst each other. And what that trust is going to identify is how we bond, what percentage of it we own.
You are literally spelling
That's a
everything
fact.
out.
That's a fact.
And simple, like it's just so simple the
Very
way you're
simple.
explaining everything.
And for people, it seems mechanical, but it's not, you know. And so with that consideration, we now hold the property in trust, because the trust is probably held on behalf of one so that another may benefit. So now we put it in trust, and now the trust is going to identify how we break up shares and where the debt obligation is going to be. And debt obligation is bonded. So now that we have that, when we make money off the property, let's say we rent it out, and every time we get the rent check, you know, from the people we renting the property out to, that's called appreciation, right? And now that property held in trust is in a security, because a security is a paper certificate that attests to ownership and equity, as in the case of a stock, or ownership of a bond, as in the case of a debt obligation, which has tradable derivatives. So what we just covered right now, right? We covered bonding, sharing, trust, consideration, appreciation, friendship, and cooperation. Corporation. So everything that we've been taught to get into relationship-wise is corporation. And now watch this. If our love will grow more profound, and we able to look at each other and see the value that we added to each other. You feel what I'm saying?
That's love.
We'll see the value. I can look at you and say, yo, Boo just made me like 40%. Since when she became Boo, since I made 40% more than the money I did prior. You feel what I'm saying? You become Boo at that point. You know what I'm saying? Because we know the spook that sat behind the door, or by the door, and so Boo's being spooked, we know the value of the spook.
Which you go back to why you don't have that drama with the women that are in your life.
No, because watch this.
So that explains the question.
Yeah,
you know, how
definitely.
do you have these women and there's no drama and
There'd
there's
be no need for child support if I've empowered you before we broke up. In fact, you get your assets before we break up. So actually, because some people say, man, these women are only with you because of the money. Well, that's a lie. My first 4 wives, we slept on the floor, but that's another conversation. Before I came home, they believed in the vision. You feel what I'm saying? We was on the floor living in the projects, Brownsville houses to be exact. Brownsville projects. Okay? So, that's a fact. So now what happens is you got to always take into consideration if a woman has in the interim of the relationship, then you can rest assured she's with you is because she chooses to stay. Because she has the resources to leave. Whereby in other relationships, she becomes an economic slave of the man. And so she's kind of staying there until she can transition properly, or she forces herself into a new relationship as leverage so she can secure herself. So, and that's why security is so important. But if we have a literal security, right, and we do have appreciation, we do have trust, and we do have consideration, and we do have a friendship, and we do have bonding, and we do have sharing, then if she's staying around me, I have good reason to believe she's there because she chooses to stay. Because there's nothing tying her hands down, tying her legs down. You feel what I'm saying? And this gives me as a man a peace of mind, because now with that bonding and sharing, like for instance, my first wife, she owns over 65% of my publishings. So any book that I ever write, she always owns 65% of it. It is my job and my responsibility as a managed provider to ensure that whenever I'm in a relationship with a woman, that she can walk away from the relationship, and I've added value in the event that we need to separate. And so while I'm with you, if you know when you walk away you have that value, then it actually substantiates the reason why we choose to stay with each other. You know what I'm saying? So it's actually, it's precipitated by business, but good business brings about a better relationship. So a lot of times we see our relationships are destroyed on account of the fact that there's not enough resources to be shared.
And this goes back to being royalty.
This is a fact.
This is true. Even like when I watch certain documentaries of the kings and queens, it wasn't about, oh, I love you, and they may love each other, they may not, but they were really building for their legacy, for their children,
that's right.
That's what it was about.
And that's what, that's what last name is.
Like
that's
that.
right.
But that is love.
That is love, and love actually, when you go into problematic languages, the word love comes from the word law, right? So, or
know
Lawi,
that.
right? The Levitical piece, the Lawi or the Levites. So love is law, literally, all right? And family is definitely business. And that's why, as I teach my daughters, because I only have daughters, I have 4 daughters, and I always teach them that to bear their last name as though it is the company, because that's what it is. So if you look at your last name as the company it is, because we understand love is law, family is business, then we understand, like, let's say your last name is Williams, right? And your daughter, obviously, last name is Williams. Then when she meets a young man, when the young man gets to talk to you, right, as you are CEO of the company, your family, right, they got to come talk to the bosses, right? And your disposition is, what can Williams do for you? What makes you want to come to the Williams family? Here at Williams, we don't want our name desecrated. You feel what I'm saying? We are talking about a legacy here. You feel what I'm saying? So if you take on this name, then we need to know, because not anybody can take on this name.
If you take on the name, I'm the woman.
That's a fact.
You take on this name.
You feel, that's exactly what we mean. You taking on the name
because the bloodline.
Because the second you go AWOL, you deviate, that's on the family's name. And then when we look at the family tree, which we don't normally look at, right? We normally don't go back more than 2 generations. In economics, a household is that which is consistent of 3 generations. That means that there's 2 sets of posterity that are watching how the other gets disciplined. So in other words, you have the grandparents, their children, and their children's children. Okay. So the children are able to reference what it looks like to be disciplined, not immediately and exclusively through their family, through their parents, but through how their parents are disciplined, so they understand seniority, right? Now,
which is respect.
Exactly. Yeah. And now what's more important on the economic level of things is for us to be able to reference successful people and to understand that we're supposed to add on, not be on decline. So the purpose of the trustee is to ensure that there's no negative asset value to the trust. So this is supposed to be a family trust. That name should always be in the trust, in the family's name, and so in the property thereof being held in that trust. So the thing about it is, when someone comes into our sphere and suggests that they want to be in a relationship with us, and they say they want to build, literally we thinking about building, not destroying our legacy.
Building,
we have to
always building.
It may not suffice for someone who can't take care of themselves to want to connect with our children in particular. Depending on our criteria, and there's levels to it, obviously. Now, people may say, man, it's about love. Would they fall in love? Well, we've seen what love done to our community throughout the years. Okay? The false pretense of love. So we cannot be afraid to employ what's called common customs. And common customs is a calculus system that precipitates culture by process of differentiation and integration. We're able to find the value of smaller things and factorials of those equivalents, thus granting us the least adverse effects from the decisions that we make. So all this means is someone, our forefathers, our foremothers, our predecessors, thought about the things that we were in error in. And we established within ourselves that this needs to change. Okay? And when we establish or reconcile within ourselves that we can't have another generation go through this, once we make those adjustments, it's imperative that the new generation in standing is fully aware of the adjustments that have been made and how they have to perpetuate the same. So we can't allow anyone to come into the family, even if they got a good heart, because our family has a certain goal. Now, if the family doesn't have a goal, then it's understood, and anything can happen.
That's what I'm talking about with my daughter.
You know what I'm saying? Anything can happen if you don't got no goals. But if the family has a goal, then the way that your daughter or your son starts picking their partner is also going to have to be predicated upon their ability to add value to your family, company, or corporation or cooperation. Okay, so, okay, you know, you don't got no job, you're just trying to find yourself. I understand. You know, hit my daughter up in 2-3 years, you figure it out.
Yeah, it's not personal.
Because there's somebody that you are abundant with. Just not my child. Somebody can see you, and you know, there's such a thing being overqualified and underqualified, right? So, you know, my daughter is overqualified for the guy that's probably trying to talk to her. And that puts you at a disadvantage sometimes because you're like, yo, when you're overqualified, most of the masses isn't compatible unless you position yourself where there's a higher compatibility rate. Now, if you want to be in the hood, you want to be by the ballparks and everything like that, you know, the bigger the ball, the less money there is most times. So as the ball gets smaller, the wealth gets higher. You might need to hang around with people playing golf. It doesn't necessarily mean you got to indulge in miscegenation or integration. It just means that you have to change your venue so you got heighten the probability of finding like minds like you and similar dispositions so you can add value to each other because it's all about reciprocity on my eye. All right? that which is mutually beneficial to both parties.
Which brings a lot of people to the next question when they're asking, okay, so would you allow your daughter to be in a relationship where he has other wives?
No, this is a good question. I'm never in a position to allow an adult to make decisions of their own free will and accord. So I'm never going to be in a position where I could allow my daughter to do or don't, because I would have to consider she's making an adult decision. So for my children, when my daughters are minors, my job is to make sure that they're edified. My job is to make sure, because I homeschool my children, my job is to ensure that they have the necessary math, science. I'm able to add on things to the curriculum.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So our actual history, what nationality is, things that's important to us in addition to the conventional. So my job is to secure her educational disposition. That's my job. If I do that job right, when she's an adult, she'll be able to make decisions for herself of her own free will and accord. I would rather know she's in a situation that she understands, that she's complicit with, as opposed to her making a decision on the merit of my thinking and thought process. Because I've arrived to the conclusion to be in a relationship I'm in based on the circumstances that surrounded me, just like the women that I'm with. So it wouldn't be authentic if my daughter made serious life decisions predicated upon my own interests, needs, and agenda. That wouldn't be fair to her. So what I have to do as a parent is, and this is very important to me because a lot of times I believe that
This
men.
is very important to me too. So I'm like,
I think
I'm here with you.
No, it's important to the world.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
This is something that is wisdom of ages, and as an Asian Africana woman with the background which I know where I'm from, to be able to bring this type of wisdom is old wisdom, is the wisdom of ages, and is the wisdom of gods.
That's a fact.
Okay?
And
So
I don't
loyalty is what it is at
That's
the end
right.
of the day.
I don't want. If I do my job as a parent, I can rest assured that my daughter will make the decision that she feels suffice that's best for her. So the answer to the question is, one, I don't have a say over what she does as an adult when she's making adult decisions. Like, I don't have a say over my wife's adult decisions. I don't demand anyone do anything that I want them to do. I just believe I'm supposed to educate you to the level where I can say, well, you know what, I raised her. She's going to make the best decision that's there for herself. She knows her world more than I know her world. So I have to just appreciate her determination and what she concluded. And so another thing that bothers me about that is that I think all too many occasions that men kind of take on a boyfriend type of disposition when it comes to their daughters. And I believe it's connected to the high rate of molestation. This is just my speculation. Because there's a point as a man where I shouldn't feel jealous because my daughter is getting into a relationship, because I'm in a relationship myself. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay.
But it's hard for a lot of men to accept that their daughter is going into a relationship. Now, I'm not knocking men who come to that conclusion, right? But I say that we should question the behavior because, unfortunately, there's too much molestation in the community anyway.
So
right?
you think it's kind of tied into something that? Where do you think that comes from? A man who feels
Well, I'll
jealous
tell you
about-
this. I'll tell you this.
I mean, it's definitely some type of sexual ideals of indeficiencies that will
Yeah,
allow
keep that
people
going.
to, you know what I mean? And in this culture that we're in, I hate to admit it, it is a lot of molestation, not just physically, but mentally, if you really think about it.
That's a fact.
You know what I mean? And so, but physically too. And come on, in the white culture that we're in, all they do is fucking each other's ears.
This is
Yo,
a
this
lot
is
of
real
that going
talk.
on.
There's a lot of stuff in the religious culture. That's why, denouncing religion is going to be the best thing y'all will ever do to get to the God Almighty, whoever your God is at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? So and I'm glad, because stuff like this has to be brought out to the world. And I'm really glad we're going the route we're
appreciate
going
that.
to be able to highlight this human excellence, because that's what we do.
Yeah, so this is what we got to live by. Like I said, when we talk about common customs, it's a calculus system that precipitates culture by process of differentiation and integration. We're able to find the value of smaller things and factorials of those equivalents, thus granting us the least adverse effects from the decisions that we make. And so all this means is that our ancestors, our predecessors, our foremothers, our forefathers took the time out to ferret through that which worked for us and that which didn't. So it's inherent in our children, our posterity, where they know how to continue the legacy or fulfill it. And that's why this has to be our doctrine. The same way we know how to count, read, write, we know our colors, is the same way that we have to reconcile within ourselves what are the parts of our culture that have to be, or as far as the themes are concerned, have to be perpetuated from one generation to the next. So that's why when you hear me say a friend is one who's willing to invest in you or one you're willing to invest in, just consider that. If you look through your phone for all the friends based on that economical context, because I don't make up these meanings, then you will probably have to scrub your phone clean because you don't have a mutually beneficial relationship.
When I leave this interview, I'm about to be like,
who's really a friend? And then your best friend of the people make the best investments amongst you. So a friend is one who's willing to invest in you or one you're willing to invest in. Cooperation is cooperation. Trust is property held on behalf of one so that another may benefit. Consideration is when two people get together, say a man and a woman, and say, hey, we like this property, we think it's an asset, we feel we can make money off of it, be mutually beneficial. So then we draw up an agreement. That agreement's called consideration. The two of you make money off of the property. That's called appreciation. And that trust is going to identify the bonding and the sharing, right? So those stipulations of what percentage, who owns what, and the bond is a debt obligation. And then you have the security, which is a paper certificate that attests to ownership and equity, as in the case of a stock, or ownership of a bond as in the case of a debt obligation. This will go back to your why no child support with all the women that you got. Well, there'd be no need for that because everyone benefited aforetime. You see, so when people are breaking up, it's like, yo, I'm not about to let this brother go out there and some new woman get all the stuff that I done work hard to make, you know. And then,
the building.
Yes, and people women are made out to be made of economic slaves. So, but in this, when we change the context of the words that we have an emotional affinity to, what happens is now we have bonding, we have sharing, we have security, we have trust, we have appreciation, we have consideration, we have friendship, we have cooperation, which is cooperation, and love is law is family business. And we know proto-Semitic wise, the word love comes from the word law. So now when we shift everything, and we understand there's a dichotomy to these words. Not only is there emotional context, there's an economical context. And we make subscriptions to the economical context. Now it's going to bring out the evolution of our community because we understand the people that rule the world, whether we call them bankers, which is a misnomer, they're families. Right. So you want to destabilize any group of people. What you do is destabilize the family. Because if there's no family, then there's no cooperation. No cooperation, there's no friendship. No friendship, there's no trust, no security, no bonding, no sharing, no consideration, no appreciation. Because when the property makes money, it's appreciated. You feel what I'm saying? So if we don't learn how to have that type of relationship amongst each other, we're always going to fail. If I can't do business with my wife, then who can I do business with? If I can't do business with my boo, who can I do business with? You feel me? It's a scary world. Well, I just don't do business with her. So then what do I do with her? If I don't do business with her, what exactly do we do? On our top, we make babies we can't afford. That's what we do.
That's exactly.
Hence the reason your child support costs.
And then look for other people to help you out with, let's say the masses help you out how to function with each other.
Yeah. And nothing says love like you having a dream and seeing it come into fruition, or you materializing it through the company of a person that worked with your company, right? Sure. And so, pun definitely intended. So it just keeps re-registering, and we're seeing what this paradigm does. And we know a paradigm is a set of rules, written and unwritten, that's just accepted. Like there's rules on the streets, right? No snitching. That's not really in the book, it's unwritten. But everybody knows to live by that law.
But it's real.
So that's the paradigm, right? So we have to enforce or create a paradigm shift in the way that we interface with each other as males and females for the benefit of our posterity, right? And so that's the empowering part. So when people ask me about polygyny, you have to be successful at monogamy in order to be polygynous. It's not something you run from. Oh, my one-on-one relationships ain't working. I just realized I need 4. Negro, if you can't deal with one woman, chances are you're going to F up with 2.
Right.
Like, that's how that works, right?
About 3 and 4.
And I've been with my first wife for over 21 years. Over 21. I haven't been
10?
That's a fact. So if people ask me how, right, but they wouldn't have the patience or the integrity to follow through. That's why a lot of times I don't have no discussions about this. Very few. This is one of the few interviews I have about polygyny. Because people are not responsible enough. Because if I said one of the tenets of being polygynous is you need to be with your woman for at least 10 years, people would be like, I quit.
Yeah.
But it's like, I want to deal with multiple women. So, bro, stay with one for 10 years. Then you'd be like, why? Because you need that woman to be able to co-sign. It would be nice if a woman could say, I did 10 years with you. And she can tell the other woman I've been there 10 years. It's kind of difficult when both women don't have a history of being with you. You see what I'm saying? So it don't necessarily have to be 10 years, but it won't really work if no one can reference who you are in secret. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't know his secrets, then you don't really know him. You gotta know my secret. You gotta know this. Every nigga cries about something. You gotta know what I'm crying about. You gotta know what touches my bones. You gotta know the little idiosyncrasies. Am I farting too much or what? Like, do I brush my teeth? Like, you gotta know that type of stuff so the other woman can be forewarned what she about to walk into that only women can do amongst each other. And if one woman is standoffish, then the other woman feels like I'm in enemy territory, then her mindset becomes I'm taking him from you as opposed to I'm working with you all. You feel what I'm saying? Because now she's feeling like a game of spite. You feel me? So
we're getting like more questions answered, like that we've been.
Oh yeah, you had questions.
We were just talking about this earlier. We were just talking about this on the
answered
phone
all of our
earlier.
questions because we were just talking and discussing this. And for me, if I can share a little bit, right?
Do your thing.
When I first discovered you, the first time I met you through passing, through the mutual friends, it's like I remember thinking I was like, at the time I wasn't at the level I'm in. This was years ago, 6-7 years at least, right? I've just started embracing these ideals, these old wisdoms and facts for the last 1.5 years, 2 years.
That's right.
But I've been following your life, and I've been admiring you for all of these years, and so I've been looking to you for mentorship, even though you didn't know me in that capacity yet.
Understood.
But I knew one day we were going to be here. You know, because it comes right back around, right? So I just want to say I appreciate being here in this space with you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that a lot.
Because
you know, this is all about.
It's all about educating my sisters at the end of the
That's
day.
right.
For me,
wealth building, and it's also about restoration of the community.
restoration of the community.
You know, and so you have to strategize. You have to employ strategies
Yeah, you do have to,
that may be a
strategize,
bit unconventional because of the circumstances that you're subject to as a people. All right. So, for instance,
you're gonna be uncomfortable.
Yeah, and success needs to be taught to our people that it's not difficult. In fact, success is rather easy. Monetary success, very easy.
Yes.
Why is that? Because if let's say this phone right here, let's say this is America, and what's the population of America? 327 million people. And this is good stuff too. When people get in relationships, I say that you should have an IQ test for people that you're starting to engage with. It doesn't matter if it's two males being friends or a male and a female interested in each other.
Yes.
You know, there's no way I could possibly like you the day I first meet you. I have to find out some things. I have to know if you know who Marcus Garvey is. You don't know who he is, and red flag. You know what I'm saying? Like, stuff like that happens.
No,
you know
it's true.
So, you know, you don't necessarily have to put out an application for someone to feel something out. But if I ask you, like, what's the population of America, and you say probably 10,300 people, then I know I'm running like hell. Because if you think only 10,000 people live in the whole of America, then that tells me at the level that I'm on, not to speak condescending to the other person, but maybe 20 years ago, I would have been willing to work with you. But at this level, you need to know when you don't have time for the same type of people you would have dealt with previous. And if you have time for the same type of people 10 years later, that means you didn't grow. So you shouldn't be encountering the same type of people, nor looking for the same type of people. Okay, so we talking about wealth building, amassing wealth. We talking about generational wealth. We talking about wealth stewardship, right? So if this is if this is America, we know there's estimated about 327 million people that live in America. Right? And only 5% of Americans have wealth. That's anybody that has over $150,000 or more a year. That's what they make. And poverty begins for a family of 4 at $32,000 a year, and for an individual at $15,000 a year, making it over $100,000 gray area, right? The gray area ain't worth nothing. So anyway, 5% of Americans are accounted for making over $150,000 a year, and that's where they say wealth begins, because they have the ability to invest at least 1/3 of their wealth. Win, lose, or draw, if they gave up $50,000, it wouldn't compromise the integrity of their living. So that's what that is. Because we're supposed to follow 50, 30, 20 principles, so to speak. 50% obligatory, 30% miscellaneous, and 20% investments in debt. You could play with the numbers after a while though, but this is some of the working models, right? The standard S&P the standard index. Like, for me to do what I do, I have to be meticulous so I can get the results. You know, I need to know when I fail, why I failed. So this is why this stuff isn't anything that saved me from being impoverished is what I commit to memory. It's never been hard to commit anything that's empowered me to memory. We walk down the block, we see a fight, we can give full detail. Yo, after that, she grabbed her weave out. She said, bitch. After she said, bitch, the dude came in and he kicked her, and then the car, they almost got hit. We do that to the letter. But then something that is imperative, integral to our survival, it'd be like, man, I got to study this all night. And that's weird about us.
That is weird.
It's very weird. So we just got to reprogram ourselves. It's just like when we say good food tastes bad. No, if it's good food, that's how good tastes. And if it's bad, that's how bad tastes.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So we just got to use logic. So just like the word retardation. My man walked in on me when I was talking. And retardation is predicated upon, you know what? I'll read it for you.
Okay.
Just in slowing down progress. That's what retardation is. Because I said most people are going to fail. They're destined to fail because they're retarded. And according to the statistics, over 95% of people are retarded in America, right?
Yes.
Because if this is the whole of America and there's 327 million people here, and only 5% of them, which would be about 16,350,000 about. Yeah, so that's about 16,350,000 people. Out of 327 million people, only 5% of them make $150,000 or more. They have the ability to do something with their money to do better things, right? So that's this right here, and this is the whole rest of everybody, right? So we say it's hard to be successful, but actually these people have a monopoly on success, right?
Sure do.
By default of the fact that everyone here is retarded. I'm gonna say what the word retarded is, so that way, because I know we have emotional connections to it, but words are a GPS of reality. So the more we know what words mean and represent, we're empowered, and we have more license over our destiny.
As literally what it means.
That's a fact. So if only 5% of people here have wealth, they're obviously benefiting from everybody else over here. That's a fact. So we know wealth is predicated upon what everybody else doesn't know. You'll always be in business based on what everybody else don't know. You'll never have a problem making money so long as you know what people don't know.
What they're not willing to do.
So all you got to do is find out what people don't know. Now, there's several barbershops in our community, several nail salons. People change their hair, they change their nails, they don't change their mind. All you got to do is find the mind information. You find the mind information, you're always going to be in business. Like math or science, right? That's why I like math and science so much. So now we're over here. It's actually using the logic. If only here is where success is and everybody else is ignorant or oblivious, then it's actually easier to be successful because so few are there that you could sneeze and wind up over here being successful. And that's what people are doing. People are literally sneezing and becoming millionaires.
True.
Especially in today's
Especially
day.
in cryptocurrency.
They're incidentally becoming millionaires, and that's why they lose their money so quick because they don't have the knowledge thereof to sustain it. So this is happening all the time. People are becoming wealthy by accident. I don't believe in accidents in the universe by incident because it should be easy to be successful. So now sustaining it is a different thing, but it should be easy to get there. So we're having a problem getting there. It's because of this, right? And so there's two words, humility, right? And humility is to have a low estimation of your own importance or value. I know the way, you gotta be humble, I always say F humility because I know what the word means, right? So we're gonna look up what these words mean, literally, because people think you make things up. So we'll look at this. Humility is a modest or low view of one's own importance. Humbleness. So how can I move forward? How can I tell you in one instance that we are oppressed as a people? Someone's constantly working on tearing us down. And now, in order for me to make strides in that kind of oppressive environment, I can't have a low estimation of my own value or importance. I have to actually know my potential, my full capabilities. And I have to act based on me being aware, cognizant of my ability. So if I'm humble, as everyone's always begging black people, man, stop showing that, stop being so humble. Our ancestors wasn't humble. They died with more gold and jewelry on their neck than we do walking around live.
Fact.
You feel what I'm saying? I went to Egypt and saw the gold-plated rims that Ramses had on his chariot. He was the first one putting gold-plated rims on, riding on 22s and 24s. He was the first one doing it. I went to Egypt to see it. You feel what I'm saying? So when we look at that joint, a modest or low view of one's own importance, humbleness. So that's crazy. Now, retardation. Look at this.
That is crazy.
Retardation is the action of delaying or slowing the progress or development of something. It has nothing to do with this. It's the action of delaying or slowing the progress or development of something. I may drink too much, and my drinking habit is slowing down or delaying my progress. You feel what I'm saying? I may procrastinate. We say, tomorrow I'm gonna stop eating cheese. Cheese pizza, smell good. Tomorrow I'm gonna stop eating cheese. Damn, smell that cheese pizza again. You know what? 3 months later, I gotta get back to the original promise. New Year's resolution, I'm gonna stop all 10 of these things. 2 months later, goes by, forget it. Next year, back at it again. So that's retardation. Now, if we accept that we're retarded, we will have accountability.
And you're gonna want to be retarded.
We already emotionally don't connect with that word. We don't like it. Right? Black people don't want to be called stupid, right? We definitely don't want to be called retarded. Now, if I could accept that what I'm doing is retarded, then if you have any self-respect, you're going to say, I got to get out of that space. I got to stop procrastinating. I got to stop with the action of delaying or slowing the progress or development of something. You feel me? So the way we go about having relationships is delaying our progress. Because we let anyone marry in to our little boys and to our little girls. And that's why I said if we look at our last names as the company that it is, then if your last name is Williams and a young man comes in and he wants to be with your daughter, you have to ask, what makes you want to be a part of the Williams family? You got to talk in a business context. Because anybody that we call the bankers that's controlling the world, they're families. Families control the world. The world ain't controlled by no one or two people. They're families that control the world. We call them by misnomers all the time, like bankers and Illuminati. But we're going to keep it 100 and just call them families. And the only way we're going to take or establish such presidents again is by rebuilding the family structure.
You have to.
With a modern or contemporary paradigm, with a paradigm shift. You know what I'm saying? So now we got to change our approach. And the world don't rely on it. We all got to become polygamous because I'm not into that crazy talk. You know? It's the way men and women do business with each other of the same community. It's the way men do business with other men of the same community. It's the way women do business with women of the same community. It's relationship. We don't know how to break up, and we damn sure don't know how to sustain it. What are the clauses for when we break up? What are the no's? What are the paradigms, right? What are the set of unwritten and written rules, things we won't do? If Hillary Clinton broke up with Bill Clinton and demanded a divorce, she would have a bullet in her head before we knew she did the divorce. Because they ain't about to have that imagery projected to white American society and their children, because then they'll follow suit. So I'm riding or dying. In our community, though, I bust your window, scratch your cars. Like, that's our shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And then boast about it.
That's what they're gonna make music about it and go platinum to it. That's right. And then guess what's gonna happen? That's gonna become the behavior. Yeah. Because you could tell a lot about the psychology of the people through the music.
It's became the norm, which is really
sad. And the only good thing about all of this is the fact that everybody's so ignorant, it's easy for our children to come up.
This is facts.
It's the only good thing about it. The only good thing about it is that it's easier than it's ever been to come up.
Wow.
Ever in our life, in all the history of being black. This is the best era where we could come up.
The best time.
Because everyone's ignorant, every race. Because only 5% of 327 million, only 16,350,000 or so roughly are in the space where they can do something. Because they operatively did the numbers to realize, oh, you're not really going to be doing nothing unless you make over $150,000 a year. So maybe you do that combined as a couple and work your way out, right? Which may be the reason why you have a relationship or a friendship with somebody, so you can get the freak out. That's what says nothing wrong with needing somebody. You know, you could want someone because you need them or need them because you want them. Those are two different things. You know what I'm saying? However, you got to understand your socio-political and socio-economical disposition, and then be able to render upon yourself the type of action you need and the type of people you need to do it with. And if you're going to spend quality time, whatever that is, right, with the other gender, it should be fundamentally about building a power structure for yourself immediately and others thereafter. So with my wife, like I told you, she got, my first wife, she has 65% of anything I've ever write. I roll over 90 books. So she's always getting money just for that. And anything that I take on from YouTube, she gets 50% of that. And then my other wives get my other stuff that I got going on. Like the property I got in Costa Rica, I just bought a mountain 5,000 feet above sea level. Thermal springs, waterfall, and resort attached. Okay, she owns 22%.
Can you not say that part like you just bought a shoe?
You know what I'm saying?
Like you just bought some shoes.
So watch this. It's one, like I told you earlier, it's not a question of, are the women with you because you have? No, when a woman is empowered to have in the interim of a relationship, she's empowered to walk out at any moment in time because she's not an economic slave no more. You see what I'm saying? So that model's gone. So if they're here, they're probably here to stay. You don't have to really stay with a nigga with several women when you have enough money and you already have your own home and you already have your own car. You know,
right.
Like this is one of my wives' places because she wanted this. I gifted her a spot here because when we first came out to Sunset Boulevard, this is where we came. And she just had the baby, so it was a birthday gift. I just gave her a spot here as a birthday gift. You know, I want to know people to serve her 24/7. She can order whatever she wants. She likes that stuff. So my wife likes this type of stuff. So she will have that type of stuff. When people get treated that way, the breakup is easy if it ever has to take place. For sure. Because we've become official friends. There's no enmity. There's no animosity.
Family.
People have the right to outgrow each other over time. You know, some people probably here for the long haul and other people aren't. Everybody's an experience. If I was able to experience you and you was able to educate me so I could be prepared for other people to come. And maybe later on in the future we see each other again. We be like, man, motherfuckers out here and shit. You know, I took you for granted. You know what I'm saying? Are you available still? You know what I'm saying?
So can I ask a good question the ladies would like to know? Are you available? I mean, how many more wives would you like to take on?
This is always a good question, right? Because if you leave it to me, I have a, what they call it, infinitesimal amount, what they use that word as. It's indefinite. But the thing is, I don't pick the women. My wives pick the women. So there's balance.
Okay,
every wife that's ever come has picked the previous wife. So there's two
really
wives,
cool.
and two wives
That's
pick the
dope.
third one. If there's four
I
wives,
love that.
3 of the wives pick
That's
the fourth
dope.
one.
That's
So
dope.
I mean,
that's how it's supposed to work.
they're not just gonna throw me anybody now. It don't work like that either.
Yeah,
You know, there's
they know.
I'm dead. Try not to throw everybody, all right?
And how do the women get along with each other? Because a lot of people are asking that also.
Oh,
how do
well,
the wives get along? How do you?
It's interesting. I know people ask, is it jealousy? And I always say that when people ask these questions, it's very interesting that they ask that question, because jealousy is not a trait that's exclusive to relationships, especially when it comes to polygyny. Jealousy is a human trait. So I would believe that it exists, to be honest. I may not see it, but it has to exist because it's human nature. If I, as a parent, see that my child loves to do something and they get to share that moment with another adult, the thought may cross my mind to feel a little insecure because I love that child. I love my daughter. And damn, I want to have that experience with her. Jealousy is not a bad thing. It can make us rise to occasion. It's not necessarily a negative thing. It's how we've been educated and how to reconcile within ourselves those insecurities that we may want to project on others, but hopefully we have enough knowledge not to. So, one, jealousy is not exclusive to relationship. I say that all the time because people once you talk about polygyny, it'd be like, yeah, I know they get jealous. Well, you know what? Siblings get jealous. It's sibling rivalries. Parents in general get jealous. So once we get that out the way, I would have to say, because people have their own and pursuing their individual goals and collective. So there's a collective goal that the whole family does. As an example, case in point, we homeschool our children. So because we homeschool our children, I take care of history. I'm dealing with that narrative, right? I'm dealing with history and mathematics. That's what I do. And I'm definitely rocking with gym. Okay, one of my wives was deal with art, right? And also some gym. And then another wife, she deals with art and music. So she makes sure my children know how to play instruments. Wow. And she knows, and she draws real good. So she deals with art and music. And we compartmentalize the curriculum so it's not overly consuming for each parent. So instead of me saying I gotta homeschool my child and I need to find a way to find 5 hours out the day, with everybody that's involved, we can break up the curriculum so we compartmentalize it. So Aminette is gonna deal with some of the social studies as well, and she's gonna deal with economics as well because she does accounting. So she's gonna teach that with the youth. And then I'm gonna do my own little mathematics stuff, and I'm gonna add the things that school don't give it, and we spread it out amongst all of us, right? And so when it comes to jealousy, because I have children by more than one woman, right? A woman could be jealous. But when you're in a family setting where everybody's contributing, you feel more empowered than you feel jealous. Yeah. And if every woman has their own home, right? Then it's like, what am I jealous about, right? So I would only expect a new woman to get jealous because she has to work her way to the grind because everybody earned everything they have. So that's another thing. You know, someone told me some European version. I watch polygyny on TV, you know, and if he gets one woman a sweater, he gotta get the other woman a sweater. I believe that's some childish shit. So I'm not in that state of mind. And secondly, I ain't never been a trick. So what we gonna do, we gonna find out what you good at, and we gonna make sure you learn how to make money off of that, and you gonna buy every sweater you want with your money. And I don't have to get a percentage of it. That's fair. I can help set your program off. I can help you get your business up. But if you want a sweater because she got a sweater, you could buy every sweater she's been buying. Y'all can figure that out, and that's how you need to spend your money based on what someone else got. But I won't be involved in that rhetoric because I got my own goals. So we'll share goals together, right? Collectively. And then you'll have your own goals so you don't get lost in the relationship following after my dream and my vision. Because you see, I'm Brother Polight. So I'm out here, I'm doing my lectures, I'm writing books, I'm doing interviews and everything like that. I don't need a woman to get lost in that. And then she's only known as Brother Polight's wife, and then 5-7 years later, and she has children. If she has children, she's gonna be more self-aware that she hasn't accomplished certain goals. Because you tend to want to be someone in the eyes of your children. You don't want your children looking, Daddy is the man, and Mommy is, she breastfed me. You know what I'm saying? So you don't really want that. And that's noble in my world. But ain't no woman trying to hear that. You know, I will tell her how powerful that is. But she got every right to want to grow in a certain stature before her own children as well. So a lot of jealousy is precipitated by just inconsistencies and inequities. You know what I'm saying? Inaccuracies and iniquity that take place in relationships when it's not well calculated. So we're not perfect. Arguing, I haven't had an argument in, I think, some years now, but it's okay. We have debates, heated debates. But an argument like where you feeling the way,
like heated debates between you and one wife.
Oh yeah, we debate. Well, two of my wives particularly, they always go against shit I say for whatever reason. I think it sexually arouses them for me to disagree with their ass, because I just don't get it. Everybody else listens to me. I'm reciting shit. I'm saying things verbatim, and they still googling and shit, double checking. I'm like, you know, so. It is what it is. So traditionally, when we're all together, there's normally 2 wives on my side and 2 wives against me, and the 2 wives on my side are being called yes woman because they don't want to go against me. So, and then sometimes everybody's against me, but we have a good family vibe. You know what I'm saying?
And that's what I feel when I met your wives. I was telling my uncle, I was like, man, like, I think I was more excited about me and his wives than I was.
Yeah, you was hanging out, you was chilling.
Yeah, I'm like.